Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is Dee, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck is the Queen of Arrows and the Swan. And we haven't seen this card in quite some time. When I was picking it up out of the deck, it was the second card from the last. And that tells me we haven't talked about it in a long time. It hasn't been in the flow of what's going on, which is good because, she likes to transition to other areas, right? She's a very strong and protective bird, just like the Queen of Stones and the bear, protective of their young. She's very protective of, her little flock that she has in the castle, right? And we haven't talked about queens in a bit, so, what I like to do is kings rule the kingdom and the queens rule the castle. So even though they're both within the castle, the king does not get involved, which would be the kingfisher. He does not get involved within, the stuff going on in the castle. She rules that, okay? And she's letting him know that, hey, I can tell you everything that's going on within the castle, right? And all the logic and all the reasoning, with what's going on, okay? Because this is an air sign, okay? But she does so in a graceful and transformative way, okay? So she's going to let the king know, in a very graceful way, this is what's going on with the blacksmith, or this is what's going on with the tailor, okay? And, in her dialogue, with the blacksmith's wife, she says, the blacksmith is working on, a new sword, okay? That's going to, help transform, with a sharper edge, two-sided, and be able to cut through anything. All right, and he gleaned that learning from, somebody in Asia. Okay, so she's letting him know that the blacksmith is working on something that could be transformative for their kingdom. Okay, so the swan in itself, takes the opportunity to break free. She doesn't always stay within the castle. She doesn't always stay, in her little group. She likes to get dressed up. She likes to move about. Not as a queen per se, but as just a regular person, okay? And, she's out there and she's milling around and she's listening, okay? She doesn't have the guards around her to protect her or anything like that. And she can venture outside those gates and talk to some of the people out there on the farms and stuff like that to understand what's going on there. All right. And why I say that is because she likes to swim in new environments. Okay. The swan is very graceful bird. Okay. And will go from one pond to the next pond to the next pond. All right. And always looking for the opportunity, to serve others. All right. To help them out. Okay. And, talking about, if this is a person or if this is you, the aspects of this card, it's somebody who's very honest, okay, and it has integrity. She's going to be very truthful. She's going to be very matter of fact, and she's going to be, she's going to know everything that's going on, okay? You can't pull the wool over her eyes, okay? She's going to be focused, on task, and very direct and outspoken. Okay, and then when she does speak, it's going to be quick, and you are going to understand where she is going with her comments. Okay, because she's very intelligent, she's very independent, and to overcome stuff. So if this is you or if this is somebody that's in your life, okay, they're going to be very direct, going to be very outspoken, and they're going to be look, this is the way to do it. Okay. If this is an aspect or of the characteristic, it's coming up with those unpleasant truths. Hey, you're lying to me. And how do I know you're lying to me? Because I talked to so-and-so. All right? That's the kind of directness that she'll come up with. All right? And she's good at assessing things. She's going to look at stuff and, she's going to ponder it for a little bit and try to figure out what the truth of the matter is. And she's going to come at you. And she's going to, be various, be able to assess stuff with what comes out of your mouth. You're going to be off guard when this queen, speaks to you. But you know, when she talks to you, there's going to be some rational explanations going on. This is the way we do things. You know, this is how we button up our shirt. This is how we put our, you know, our stuff together in the room. Okay. And she gets to the heart of the matter really quick. You know, especially if you're coming to her with, you know, some sort of complaint or, you know, opportunity. She's going to look at it, you know, she's going to be able to see right through it. So don't try to pull the wool over her eyes. Don't try to get one by her, because it's not going to happen. Okay. If this is an event, it's going to be something where the truth is spoken. Okay. And it's also going to be setting ground rules and finding out that freedom, the freedom to move back and forth. Now, the question that she asks is, what help do you need? Straight, direct, and forward. What help do you need? Well, you know, I've been working on, you know, reuniting with an old friend. What do I need to know about this person? And she's going to look at it and say, okay, well, what sort of background is it? Well, you know, we haven't really spoken in 10 years. You know, there's been some issues going on, and, you know, he's had some opportunities where parents have passed on, and, you know, I've had some opportunities where parents have passed on. So, you know, we're still in this mourning phase. And she's looking at that and she goes, well, you know, what help do you need? Well, I just need that help to, you know, to communicate with him, to, you know, let him know, hey, we're in the same boat. You know, we don't have to do this alone. We can do this together. And then she's, you know, she'll look at that and she'll say, okay, that's good. You know, what help do you need, you know, from the King of Bows that gave you that information? You're looking at him going, how did you know I met the King of Bows? Because she knows. She's done her research, you know. So what help do you need to take charge? Okay. What help do you need, you know, with the tradition piece of it? What help do you need with, you know, the universe protecting you? And then that Knight of Vessels, what help do you need to make those emotions, you know, keep them calm? Well, I just need somebody to talk to. I need somebody to understand where I'm coming from. And she goes, that's good. What is your straightforward approach when you do that? Well, with myself, I'm not going to get caught up in all that emotion. Well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to rely on the universe. I'm going to look at the spirits that have moved on to give me meaning, give me understanding. Okay. I'm not going to let my enthusiasm get out of whack. All right. I'm going to let go of what isn't serving me anymore. All right. I'm going to mourn those that have moved on and be grateful of what I do have. And when it comes to reuniting, you know, I've reunited with those souls that have moved on. And she looks at that and she goes, that's great. That's a nice, straightforward approach. Talking with them directly. Not going around the bush. Telling them the spirits and the universe exactly what it is that you want on your spiritual path. And she looks at you and she says, you know, I don't know why you've come to me with the answers, because you've already got them. Go out there and do so confidently. Go out there and walk your path. Okay? Do it as the bright light that you are at. But you don't have to stay within your community. You can move to a different community. All right? You can travel to another community. Spread the word. Move to different spots. All right? Break free and swim in that new environment that you're meant to swim in. But do so with an air of caution. Do so with an air of listening to what's going on, taking on that aspect. And be honest with people. Give them the honest to goodness truth of what's going on. And you look back at that swan, you say, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And we wait till tomorrow. So that's today's card of the day, the Queen of Arrows and Swan. And, you know, if you like what you're seeing, hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and give me a thumbs up. If you'd like a personal reading, check out that stand store down below. And hit that description box. And I'm set up on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays right now at all times. And, you know, let's, you know, get together and get that taken care of for you. So this is Dee for Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. God bless. Stay safe, everybody.